So we have time for a few quick questions. Wonderful presentations, and I want to allow each of you to speak on this. I know this goes back to Richard Cram's presentation. Question coming in: if you're a remote seller, but you have some type of physical presence in the state, such as inventory or sales representatives, etc., does economic nexus apply?
Thanks, Elizabeth. Yeah, the answer to that would be no. If states are still going to rely on physical presence nexus for taxpayers that do have some type of physical presence, inventory, making visits into the state, regular visits through sales representatives, etc. So economic nexus would only come into play when there is no physical presence in the state.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Any comments from our other speakers?
Yeah. This is Chuck, Elizabeth. If we get this question, and Richard Fry, you'll probably have the same thought. We get this question all the time, and the question is, does economic nexus replace physical nexus? And the answer is no. The two requirements sit side by side, and either could lead to a tax collection and remittance obligation. So if you have a physical presence with inventory, but you don't meet that transactional threshold, you still have nexus with that state and have the collection and reporting obligation.
Yeah, the only thing I would add, and this is Rich Fry, where we would see possibly a different result is if you're relying upon a de minimis physical presence in the state, or an accepted presence, such as, various states have trade show exemptions, so you can attend a trade show, let's say for 8 or 9 days. So you would be exempt from physical presence nexus under that statute or administrative rule. But if you exceed the economic nexus threshold, you'd still be required to collect tax.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Another question I want to present before we get to closing remarks. We have just a limited amount of time, but I want to go back to Charles again, and each of you, if you could briefly talk a little bit on what you predict the Wayfair Marketplace map is going to look like, perhaps by the end of this calendar year. Will economic nexus be universally adopted? Will marketplace rules exist everywhere? I know it's a lot to cover in just a minute or so, but if we could.
So Elizabeth, from my money, I think that if we sit here next year for a similar conversation, virtually every state, except those states that don't have a sales tax, will have an economic nexus standard of some shape on their books. Maybe Florida might be the last. It's hard to say, but it's going to be pretty universal. And with that, and because of the simplifications that it provides to the tax administrators, I think it's also likely that in many of those states, there'll be a marketplace facilitator law sitting side by side with the economic nexus, because it will allow states to collect from this vast network of e-commerce sellers, but at the same time not necessarily have to deal with registrations and filings from relatively small sellers. It presents really, from the tax administration point of view, a very nice technique to consolidate connection points between the revenue authority and taxpayers.